The Dental Brief is brought to you by Omni Premier Marketing and the amazing guests who bring wisdom and advice that you can put to use to take your business and practices to the next level. Find us on Facebook and join the conversation. Get ready to grow because we are kicking off the next episode in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Dental Brief. So excited to kick off this new year for us. I'm so excited for our guest today. We have with us Dr. Addison Killeen. Dr. Killeen, say hello.
Hey, how's everybody doing today?
You know, we're doing great here. We're excited to have you on. I think this is your third time on the podcast. Your very first video recording. So really grateful for that, being that getting paid for us on that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. You got a sweet background and a new office and lighting and everything. I'm excited. My office just looks like the crazy dentist office with cups and a scanner sitting on the floor, and it's the life of a practicing dentist.
Yeah, it works. So let's talk about your practice a little bit. I know about it. I'm sure some of our listeners have heard you before, but go ahead and talk about your practice a little bit. Where are you located at? What's your group about?
Yeah, so I'm in Lincoln, Nebraska. I've lived here my whole life pretty much. And so when I exited a multi-practice group a few years ago, had a sellout event, and then I did this startup just about 3 years ago. And we have 6 operatories, built out the space brand new in a little strip mall. The 6 operatories are pretty great, but now we're totally full. Just good operations and treating the community well. It's been a blessing for us, and we've grown. And so now we actually purchased the strip mall. We've kicked out 4 other tenants, and we're going to expand and hopefully build out maybe another 11 or 12 operatories. So that's the plan for the next year. We do pretty much everything in-house, some implants, some IV sedation and surgery, some cosmetics, and a little bit of Invisalign and clear aligners. But mostly, for me, it's bread and butter. Like, I just do a little bit of everything. And I've got an associate right now who does the IV sedation and wisdom teeth and a little bit more complex surgical cases. And then I'm actually hiring another associate in January who is a board certified oral radiologist who wants to do part-time general dentistry, part-time radiology. So yeah, that's pretty exciting to be able to.
That is exciting. That's exciting. And I know, you've written quite a few manuals on how to be a rock star dentist, and we'll jump into that in a little bit. But let's kind of talk about the subject of our show a little bit. So you've bought the building, you've kicked a bunch of people out. I'm sure you still have a couple of tenants left in there, yeah?
I've got one Pizza Hut, so don't buy any pizzas for a while. I'd love to kick them out, but they don't want to leave. So
that's great. So also you got to eat, right? So I'm sure you have plenty of pizzas over there. So
yeah.
But like I said, we'll get into the manuals, but let's talk a little bit about subject today: internal marketing. I'm a marketer. I have a marketing company. We help dentists across the country. But I know you want to talk specifically about internal marketing. I'm going to tell you this real quickly. Everything that I've learned about internal marketing, I've learned from dentists. No marketer told me. I've learned it from other dentists. I've taken what they've done and I've helped others apply it. I know you love doing the same with dentists. So give us some secrets on internal marketing. We'll start from the scratch. What are some things that you've done that have helped taking you to the next level?
Yeah, I think, you got to make, just like we always worry about how our office looks, I think everything internally needs to kind of be in the same spirit. And so if you want to have a high quality practice and you're doing high quality implants, the paperwork you send home with them should also be very high quality. It should be a nice glossy brochure, and it should have, your picture and your information so that it's very smooth. I went to the orthopedic guy, kind of busted up my ankle a while back, and he had a photocopied page of post-op directions, and the photocopy was quite bad. Right. And so I was just really bummed to think I'm paying a ton of money for this, and yet this is a photocopied and kind of lower quality. So just like when you get an Apple product and you unbox it and there's a fancy box and nice directions, that should be our experience. So we need to have the experience well with like our paperwork, with our brochures, our post-op brochures. If you're doing extraction, it doesn't have to be really fancy, but if you ordered some cheap bags off of Amazon you had your brochure in it, you had your gauze, and maybe, another little clear, like tip to spray water down into a socket if you need to rinse out, some of those things that just make your experience seem smoother. Like that's internal marketing to me, to just make sure that the client that leaves your door knows that you are the absolute best. So that's one of the things, just making sure everything in the office is really well put together and it seems like you can complete the story. But then, the other thing is any client that's already in the door should be your biggest proponent. So part of it is using a software or manually texting patients after their appointment to ask for reviews. I think reviews are the absolute strongest way to drive both your like web presence, SEO, or, Google. I mean, really, we should only really care about Google anymore. So getting Google reviews is huge. Making sure that you also kind of prime them for that and just tell them like, hey, I'm a small business. It would really help me if you wrote a review. Just that little one sentence will get people to both sympathize, like, oh, you're in my community, you're a small business. Yeah, I'll write a review for you. And then the biggest primer that we do to kind of help kind of reinforce a positive end to the experience, and we usually do this for first-time patients, is we give them either a bottle of wine, a t-shirt, or a Yeti like stainless steel mug that has our logo on it. So, a t-shirt is anywhere between $6 to $8, and I'm wearing one right now. So it says Smile Lincoln. And, it's a Husker game day here soon. So, it's red and white, of course. But we have tons of t-shirts that we give out all the time. Every month we kind of change a new color and design in the same themes usually, but $6 to $8. The stainless steel mugs we buy on Alibaba over from China in about 1,000 units a piece. They're with shipping and everything included. It's $5,000. So it's $5 per stainless steel mug. And that's really great. And then the bottle of wine is like $3.50 from Trader Joe's or Aldi or one of those places. So it's really quite cheap when you kind of count the dollars and cents. But when you hand a patient a bottle of wine and like, oh, would you like a red or a white today? And they say like, you're seriously giving me wine? It's like, oh yeah, we just do this for all of our patients. And they walk out happy as a clam, and that cost you maybe $4 total. So that's like just some of the little strategies that we love to use here in the office.
So I'm pretty sure that this hasn't changed since the beginning of time. The parents have been yelling at their kids to keep the door open or to keep the door open because the heat's coming in or the heat's going out or whatever is happening there. Right? I think that's one of the things you do in your early 20s when you get your first place is you leave the door open for a while with the heater on to see what's going to happen. I think that when you talk about internal marketing, I think keeping your current patients is a big part of that, right? So the less patients that you have to replace every year means lowering your cost because you don't have to go use Google's audience or the post office audience or Facebook's audience. You don't have to rent that audience to bring in new people, right? So with that being said, I think indifference is the number one reason why patients leave offices. Not one specific reason, just indifference. They don't really care. They don't really feel the warm and fuzzies from their dentist or the office team. Maybe there's a lot of turnover. And they're just like, I don't really care. It's not that big of a deal to me. So my husband recommended this dentist. Now I'll go there. Or my coworker got a bottle of wine from their dentist. And now I'm going to go there, right? It's that indifference where they just don't love their dentist that they leave. So these types of things make a big difference, right? Just a $5 mug helps eliminate a lot of that difference.
Mm-hmm. Oh, totally. And it's amazing. I always tell patients, and in my first book, By the Numbers, we talk about what's the ideal percent you should be spending on marketing. Now, when you're a startup, obviously you have very little revenues and you're trying to market a bunch to get a bunch of people in the door. But as you get to be like a healthy, mature practice, we sometimes say should be 4 to 5% of your revenue should be spent on marketing. Well, as you look at that 5%, if you're really good at internal marketing and you keep all those patients in-house, you're going to fill your clinic up quickly, and then you should drop marketing significantly. But I always think, that 5%, you should always look at how much are you spending internal and how much are you spending external. And so the internal is actually super cheap. I mean, you get so much bang for your buck by just doing internal. The other thing I love to do is when a patient refers another patient, you should reward that, and not so overtly, like not try to say, hey, if you send me a patient, I'll send you a gift card. You should just randomly have a handwritten note, and the front desk can do this for you and prepare all these handwritten notes. You just send them a $5 gift card. And the reason I do $5 is because it's so small, no one would ever do it to try to make money. Like, you're not going to be like, oh, I'm going to send 10 patients and go buy a car with that money. It's so small that it's just like, oh, they noticed, thanks. And it's like it's a weird psychological thing that says, well, I'm doing this out of the goodness of my heart, not because I want the free coffee. And so that's what we do. We just send a little handwritten note like, hey, thanks for sending somebody over. Here's $5 to the local coffee shop. And that, I think that it's a relatively small cost, but it helps out a lot.
Yeah, I'll tell you two things. One, first, real quick, my insurance agent, every time I send a referral to her, sends me a $10 Starbucks gift card. I never use them. I hand the gift cards to my wife. But as soon as I get that, the number one thing I want to do, find somebody else to send it to. I don't want the $10. It doesn't matter. But it excites me, and it makes me think, wow, they really appreciate this. They really like me. Right? They like me for doing this, and now I want them to like me some more, so I'm going to find somebody else. All the time. I'll tell you, and this goes way beyond the $5 or $10 budget. I read this a long time ago. I stole it from another dentist. I suggest it to other dentists. If you have patients that work in an office surrounding and they send you a referral, don't be afraid to send them flowers to their office. When flowers show up at an office, and as people are coming back to their offices, everybody by the end of the day knows where those flowers came from. So if you have 5, 10, 15 people in an office and somebody gets flowers or somebody gets some type of a gift, some type of a food gift, edible arrangement, some type of candy, everybody in the office knows where it came from. And then they're wondering why their dentist doesn't do this for them. And again, indifference, right? They don't care about their dentist that much. They're indifferent, and then they leave. So I want to also clarify something right now. Use internal marketing. I think that's a really good term. I get it. I understand it. I like to separate the term marketing, and advertising, and kind of make that literally clear, right? So people contact us, or they contact other companies. They go, oh, I need to do marketing. That means buying something. And I don't look at it that way. Advertising means buying something. Marketing is every single thing that you do in your practice, right? The way you answer the phones, the scrubs that your team's wearing, how clean your lights are and your ops. Do you agree does that make sense to you? Do you agree with that?
Oh, totally. Yeah. And marketing, even you could call marketing if you did some special event at the office, or you went on a mission trip and you wrote up a little press release and sent that to the local newspaper. That gets you in the newspaper or on their website, or a TV station might stop by. That's marketing, and that costs you $0. So there's so many things. Like the tone of the voice of the person answering your phone calls. Yeah, it's absolutely marketing, because you have so many people that, they don't necessarily drive by your office, but they call and they're asking about prices. And if that person on the phone has a warm voice, answers well, and can convert that patient, that is a marketing expense too. So I totally agree. Marketing is such a wide term, and yet, advertising is what everyone thinks of. They say, well, I need a marketing company. I need to buy a billboard and a website and a magazine ad. And oftentimes those should be most likely the last things on the list.
You're right, 100%. And these are things too that I think in some of these areas, a lot of people would disagree with you. I listened to a bunch of phone calls this morning coming into a practice, and I just listened to voicemail, right? So whatever advertising they're doing or internal marketing that's driving those calls in, they're not answering. That's also marketing. If you're not answering your phone, you are unintentionally marketing your practice in a poor way.
Well, that's one of the things I check every week. I have a weekly scorecard, and I just every week it's just about 25 numbers that I put into my little spreadsheet. And one of those numbers, I go onto my voice over IP phone system, which I use Mango Voice, and I pull out what's the percentage of answered calls in the last week. And so as long as that trend keeps going up and improving, then we're doing well. If it's down in the 60s or 50s, which I've seen other practices have really bad answer rates, I can tell them like, hey, you only had this many new patients. You probably missed 50 new patient phone calls or something. For my practice, my goal is always like 85 to 90%, because it does factor in after hours calls as well. But, it's kind of like that should be our goal, is to answer 90% of the phone calls coming in. Otherwise, we're driving leads, or people are getting referred to our office and we're not capturing those leads.
Right. Makes total sense. So let's shift gears here a little bit. Let's talk about your latest book. Tell me about the book. Tell me what it's about and who's it for.
Yeah, so this is my 6th book. Every book that I have is based around what people ask me the most in my coaching calls with like the Dental Success Network and Dental Success Institute. And most of it was around, okay, you have this startup practice, this year we're going to do about 3.6 million in 6 ops. How did you in 3 years get to that point? And it's basically all based around my marketing, what I did, both internally and externally, and how I was able to get it from 0 to 3.6. And so, but it's based around, it actually this was the hardest book I've ever written. It took me more than a year to write, because I did kind of go through some of the history of like, okay, where did medical marketing come from? Because back in the day, this was all cliche. Like hospitals did not market. Well, now the arena next door is the hospital brand arena. And, down in other towns, it's like the orthopedic group arena. And it's like, well, it's because they're breaking their knees over there. But so I go through the history. I go through, what should your budget be? How do you plan out your marketing? Examples of, even if you're trying to like market to get an associate in, what sort of letters would you send out? Different things like that. And it goes through, and then, I dug into the weeds and tried to maximize, okay, how do you do, like for a lay person, and I consider myself, I'm still an idiot with all this stuff, but what is SEO? What are all these words? And basically, how should I pick a marketer? Like if I'm talking to somebody about web development, what are the words I need to know so that I can be educated on choosing the right person? Because I will tell you, us dentists, we think we know everything. And we know everything about a tooth, but we should not be spending our own time marketing or doing our own website. And so when people ask me like, oh, where should I host my website? I say, I have no freaking clue. You should hire somebody, because you should be doing fillings, crowns, and implants. And so, but we should be educated enough to know where our holes in our knowledge are. And so that's kind of what we went through with the book. I think it's, 230, 40 pages. It's got lots of like images and examples of what are like good brochures that I've created for my practice. And quite a bit of it is actually internal marketing, because I think if you get that flywheel spinning, then you save so much money down the line, because you're just keeping patients in the door.
100%, right? I mean, people don't realize, I think that every patient leaves because of insurance, and that's not why, right? It really is. And I think that indifference and just not treating them like the value as the highest value as they think they are. And I think that's really critical. So tell me again, what was the title of your book? The new one? The
Dental Marketing Manual.
Awesome. And where can we find it? Where can our audience get a copy?
It's for sale on Amazon.com. So along with our other 4 manuals, the operations manual, the startup or acquisitions manuals, and then we have the associate manual as well. So if you're a dentist looking to hire an associate, like if you've grown your practice with marketing really well, and then you need an associate, that's the manual for you in that respect.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll tell you right now. I think that's a book right now. I can tell you that if you just are starting a practice, or you're thinking about starting a practice in the next year or two, and you think you're going to grow your practice and hire additional associates, and that's kind of what your business model is going to be, read that book now. Grab that book now. Don't wait until you're ready to hire an associate, or you think you're ready to hire an associate. I think that'll help get you in line with what you really need to do to be successful in hiring an associate, because it can be a nightmare for a lot of people, right?
Oh yeah, it's if you don't prepare yourself mentally and with the systems beforehand, it can just be so futile, and you get really frustrated and burnt out because you think an associate's going to take the workload off you, And for the first 6 months, you both make less money and it's a lot more work to develop the associate to kind of fit your practice and fit your system. So yeah, it's a good one. It's needed because that was another problem that people were all asking about, how to onboard an associate effectively. And I think that's one thing that I've gotten lucky with is finding the right associates to match my goal for the clinic. And that's kind of why I got so lucky with getting an oral radiologist for this next one, which is going to be a really cool experience.
Yeah, awesome. Congratulations to you. It's great to see what you're doing. It's great to see how you're impacting the lives of other dentists. Thanks so much for being here, Dr. Killeen.
Yeah. No, thanks, Patrick. I appreciate it.
I can't wait to have you back. See you soon.
All right. See you later.